All right, everyone, I hope you had a great lunch.
Nadam se da ste uživali u ručku.
Yeah, pizza was great. Thanks for all the hospitality here.
Zahvaljujem se na gostoprimstvu ovde.
All right, now we're going to move on to talking about creating an outline for your sermon.
Sada želim da pričamo o stvaranju konture ili ti skice ili beleški za tvoju propoved.
So when I took up the task of writing a talk about outlining, guess what I did?
Šta mislite da sam uradio kad sam saznao da deo koji mi je zapao je vezan za pravljenje konture ili skice?
I wrote an outline.
Napravio sam konturu.
An outline about outlines.
I konturu u vezi konture.
Mind blowing, huh? All right, that's how much I love outlines. I wrote an outline about outlining.
Toliko volim, znači, tu konturu, pravljenje kontura.
Okay, here's my outline about outlining.
Evo, ovo je moja kontura u vezi konture.
Okay, number one, why you need an outline?
Zašto trebamo konturu, pod 1?
How to build an outline.
Pod 2, kako napraviti konturu.
My process.
Moj proces.
And an example.
Pod 4, primjer.
Okay, so first of all, let's talk about why you need an outline.
Okay, prvo pitanje je zašto trebamo konturu.
I have a bad habit that I picked up from my father.
Imam jednu manu koju sam pokupio od svog oca.
When I was a kid, sometimes my family, we would all get into the family car.
Ponekad kao deca otišli bi u auto, svi bi seli u auto.
And then my dad would start driving.
I moj otac bi krenuo da vozi.
The only thing is that sometimes he started driving without knowing where we were going.
Ponekad je problem to što je moj otac krenuo negde, ali nismo znali gde je krenuo.
So I played baseball growing up, and for like half the year, we would travel all over Colorado, where I grew up, and we go to tournaments.
Pošto sam se bavio bejsbolom kao dete, putovali smo svugde po Koloradu na takmičenje i tako to.
And sometimes it would be like time to leave and a big rush. You got to put all the stuff in the car and then get the family into the car.
I ponekad bi bili u gužvi, onako ajde što pre da sve stavimo u auto i idemo sa porodicom.
So we pull out of the driveway onto the street, start driving.
Krenuli bi znači ulicom dole.
And then after some time, my mom would ask my dad, "You know where we're going, right?"
I posle nekog vremena moja majka bi pitala mog oca, čekaj, ali ti znaš gde treba da idemo?
And he'd be like, "No."
I on bi rekao ne.
And it wasn't always a problem. It wasn't a problem until we got out of our neighborhood.
I nije bio problem do trenutka kad smo izašli iz našeg komšiluka.
But once we got onto a main road or a big intersection, we had to choose a direction.
Ali kad smo već stigli do autoputa ili tako negde, morali smo znati gde da skrenemo.
And sometimes that would be a problem. He would go west when we needed to go south, for example.
I ponekad bi on krenuo na zapad, a zapravo bi trebali da krenemo na jug.
And I guess his theory was that it's easier to change direction once you're already moving.
I teorija mog oca je da je lakše promeniti direkciju kad si već krenuo negde.
And sometimes he'd get lucky.
I ponekad se posreći to.
The direction he started driving in, it turned out to be the direction we needed to go.
I ponekad bi stvarno pogodio tamo gde je krenuo, tamo je gde bi trebali da idemo.
But most of the time, this habit of just going without knowing where you were trying to get to,
ali ponekad ova njegova navika da ide negde, a ne zna gde,
it just resulted in a lot of wasted time and a lot of wasted gas.
Bi prouzrokovalo to da bi protraćili vreme, protraćili benzin.
And it led to a lot of frustration on the part of us who were along for the ride.
I mi koji smo bili sa njim u autu bi bili veoma frustrirani.
How does this relate to sermons?
Kako je ovo povezano sa pripremom za propoved?
When I first started preaching, I approached preparing sermons in the same way my dad approached driving to baseball games.
Na početku pripremanja propovedi, način na koji bi pristupio pripremanju propovedi je način na koji moj otac krenuo sa autom.
I just started going without having any destination in mind.
Samo bih jednostavno krenuo bez neke onako destinacije na umu.
I would take my text and then I would just like start writing thoughts down, like thoughts that I had or things that I heard other people say about that text.
Uzeo bi tekst, počeo bi da pišem neke svoje misli drugih ljudi koje sam čuo da su rekli u vezi tog teksta.
And the result was a message full of random, disconnected thoughts.
I nešto što bi bilo zajedničko za sve to je da moja propoved bi bila puna nepovezanih misli.
Right? Like stuff that was true, but it wasn't connected to each other at all.
Stvari koje sam govorio je bila istina, ali nisu bile povezane jedna sa drugom.
You could call this message of preaching read and ramble.
Takav način propovedanja možeš nazvati čitanje i mrmljanje.
Right? Like I would read a text, I read a verse or two.
Dakle, propovedao bih, pročitao bih stih ili dva.
And then I'd drop some truth on people.
I onda bih bacio istinu na ljude.
At least that's what I thought I was doing.
Ili sam bar ja mislio da to radim.
Hey, here's a verse and here's a truth bomb. Boom.
Evo stih, evo vam, ovo je bomba od istine.
And I thought that then I'd read another verse.
I onda bih pročitao sljedeći stih.
And I'd say something else.
I opet da kažem nešto.
But the things I said weren't necessarily connected to each other at all.
Ali stvari koje sam govorio nisu bile povezane uopšte.
They're just kind of like random thoughts that I had about stuff.
Bile su totalno random misli u vezi nekih stvari.
And whereas I thought I was teaching the passage,
ali ono što sam ja mislio dok sam propovedao,
the truth was I really just used those verses as like springboards to talk about all kinds of random things that I thought.
Je da za moje propovedi ja sam bukvalno koristio stihove iz Biblije da bih nekako govorio o tome šta ja mislim o nekim totalno nepovezanim mislima.
Now sometimes, like my dad, I got lucky.
I ponekad, poput mog oca, posrećio sam se.
I ended up going in the right direction, even though I, kind of stumbled into it.
Krenuo sam u pravom smjeru, iako nisam znao u stvari da idem u pravom smjeru.
But most of the time, because I didn't start with the destination in mind,
ali često isto zbog toga što nisam počeo sa destinacijom
and I had no plan to get to the destination.
I nisam imao plan kako stići do te destinacije.
I did the same thing to people with my preaching that my dad did with his driving.
Uradio sam istu stvar ljudima kojima sam propovedao kao što moj otac uradio nama koji smo bili u autu.
I wasted a lot of time.
Protraćio sam mnogo vremena.
I wasted a lot of energy.
Potraćio sam mnogo energije.
And I frustrated the people who were along for the ride.
I frustrirao sam ljude koji su sa mnom.
That's why you need an outline.
Zato vam treba kontura.